You're listening to the Write Project podcast and radio program, a show about writing and modern Newfoundland author culture. This program is produced and recorded at CHMR FM 93.5 FM in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, and is aired on other great stations in the province and elsewhere in the country. It can also be heard online at www.chmr.ca. I'm your host, Matthew LeDrew. Welcome to a very special episode of the Write Project podcast. Today, we've got a host of authors on to answer one of the most frequent questions that's asked of any author. We're asking them, does writing energize you or does it exhaust you? And today to answer, we have on a variety of different authors. First, Kelly Power, president of the Writers Alliance of Newfoundland and Labrador, as well as contributing author to Chillers from the Rock and What's Written in the Ladies. Does writing energize you or does it exhaust you? Because I feel like there's a pretty good 50-50 divide between those two things, where people start out with energy and then at the end they're just like, they feel like a husk, like this just taken all this out of them. Or people who get that endorphin buzz and they start out slow and like, oh, I need my coffee, and by the end of it, it's like, all right, let's get the day started.
I am definitely energized by writing, and it is incredibly difficult to start. I am like a bird looking at shiny things when I sit down at the computer. It's like, oh, what's that over there? Oh, what's that over there? I'm distracted. I'm procrastinating. But once I get into it, and especially if I'm content with the progress I've made, I'm really energized by it. I don't know, it's kind of like a bit of a drug, if I can say that. It's just like a hit of something when I get to a point where I'm content with what I've got and I can stand up and feel like, okay, it's like I've done the most important thing in my day now, and the rest of the day is just gravy.
That's nothing what drugs are like. That's not drug. Like, that's not what drugs are like.
Does it depend on the drug?
No.
You take the...
Yeah. Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have Chelsea B., author of London Calling and Christmas Mornings.
Oh, I definitely feel very drained by it, which is also a catch-22 because I write best in the morning. So
your day's just done.
It's over. Like, it's a write-off at that point. But yeah, I try to write as much as I can in the morning, and I'm like, okay, it's 6 o'clock, and I am just finishing coffee, and I've written 500 words. That's great, but like, what else is there to do today?
Yeah.
There's always stuff to do. I just don't want to do it.
Yeah. Laundry piles up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The cat won't stop meowing because it's been precisely 3 minutes.
Yeah. Yes.
Late.
Yes. Yes. What's happening? I don't like change. Meow. Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have John Dobbin, best-selling author of The Starving. Are you energized by writing or are you exhausted by it?
I think the way I write is really strange because I have 3 kids and I have a full-time job and I have a wife, and family life. I think I'm always exhausted because of that. So writing,
you kind of exude exhaustion. Like, you're like,
that's a nice thing to say.
You kind of do that. You're a very nice guy, but you kind of have this, I am too tired to smile. You'll have to trust that I am happy.
That's not. Yeah, I feel tired a lot, but I just fit writing in. I don't know if I'd say that it energizes me or if it exhausts me. I do know that when I come up with something, like if I'm struggling with how I'm going to move from one point to the next in what I'm writing, and I do figure that out, that does energize me a bit. It gets me pretty stoked, but I wouldn't say writing in general does either or.
Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have Amanda Labonte, author of the Call of the Sea and Supernatural Causes series. Are you energized by the act of writing, or does it exhaust you?
Wow. I think I'm energized by it, but like not in like a crazy way. I think that maybe it's that I'm what's the opposite of energized?
Exhausted.
Exhausted? Or
de-energized?
De-energized by not writing.
Yeah.
So when I go long periods of not writing or of just having like life interfere with writing, then I'm not my best.
Yeah.
And when I'm on a good routine, I'm in a good place. So it's not that like I'm not tired at the end of the day. It's not that like I don't have to, especially if I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out a plot problem.
Yeah.
Because plot holes and figuring out how to get from A to B can sometimes be like my worst part of the writing process. But
the most exhausting thing for me is drafting. Like
Yeah.
that first, like figuring out the plot. How
Yeah.
do we get from here to here?
from here to here, for sure. So it's not that I don't get tired by the writing or like, annoyed with it or headaches from it, but I also, have good days too. It's in general, if I'm not following my routine, whatever that looks like for that period of time, then I'm not as happy a person.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I actually have a little dry erase board right next to my computer that has like it's sectioned off for the different days of the week.
Right.
And I give myself 2 days off a week, not necessarily consecutively, but like a weekend.
Right.
But for the other 5 days, I set goals like, okay, I want 1,000 words a day or 2,000 words a day or whatever it is.
Right.
And I'll mark on each day how many words. So if I'm supposed to get 1,000 words a day,
Right.
but then 2 days in a row I get 1,500, then I've earned a day off because that's 3,000 total, and so
Right.
I've earned an extra day off. But on a day when business or life gets in the way and I can't get the word count, I'm just frustrated.
yeah, and I think it's because to put it in like more of a businessy kind of term, like there's a lot of things that seem important to the writing process. There's marketing the writing. There's just the outside stuff that you do as a writer. That's working, having a job, like the things that you think that you do to like support your writing and to get your writing out there to an audience. Like sometimes I'll fall down like the social media rabbit hole because I haven't done anything on Twitter in a while, and I haven't written a blog post in months, and I have to think about this next project. But as a writer, your asset is your new material.
Yeah.
And if you can't expect to have anything to market down the road if you haven't written anything today. So I think in the back of my mind there's this idea constantly that if I'm not creating the new material, then I'm not actually supporting my future writing. So I think that's kind of where the ennui sets in when you're not meeting your goal. It's other things seem really important in the moment.
Yeah.
But if
They're less so.
they are, and it's hard to convince yourself in that moment that they're less so, because it's like this new shiny thing over here is what's important, but it's
Not.
it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
No, I get it.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Diana Brown, author of Saltwater Joys.
I am energized throughout the process, actually.
Cool.
So I read, I have favorite authors, but I read everything and anything.
Me too.
So, and it's that energizes me. So as long as I have a good book beside me, and I don't draw from it, but
No.
it's just kind of one of those things where I have a fascination with words. So I love how words go together and how they sound. So I'll say it out loud, or but I keep that energy up throughout the researching, throughout the notes. And I feel like those little pockets of my life are the most energized when I'm writing.
That makes sense.
Because I do write in very, I have like minutes sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'll write as much as I can. Sometimes I have hours.
Yeah.
And I will sit there for hours, and I am focused, and it's a passion. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have Brad Dunn, author of After Dark Vapors. Does writing energize you or exhaust you?
I would say it exhausts me for sure.
Yeah, you start it with a bunch of energy and it slowly burns out.
Yeah, I definitely feel, but it's like a good exhaustion. Like, I compare it to like a honeybee. Like a honeybee goes around, gathers all this pollen, and then like lets it all go and turns it into honey.
Okay.
That's how I feel. Like I have all this like stuff pent up in me.
Yeah.
And so then when I write it out, I feel like it's like a release.
You're letting go of that weight.
Yeah, and I find like I try to leave like a little bit in the tank, because if I write myself out totally, it's so hard to start again the next day.
Yeah.
So I try to find this point where I can say, okay, like I know where the story's gonna go, so I can pick it up the next day.
Yep.
Because if I push myself, like totally exhaust myself, then I can't start again for like days, because then you got to get the momentum going again and everything.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've abandoned the word limit idea. I definitely try to avoid like getting into the numbers. That was something I learned when I wrote my master's thesis.
Yeah.
Because it's just like I would get way too hung up on numbers, and like when I wrote After Dark Vapors, which is my first novel.
Yep.
At one point I was like, okay, like I want the novel to be about 80,000 words. I have 20,000 words right now, so if I want to finish the 60,000 words, I got to write at this pace. And I just like, I'd be writing and I would just like, oh, I got to hit this number, and it just really like got
You're thinking of the numbers and not the story.
Yeah, it just really got in my head, and I just sort of let it go and said, you know, like, even like, it's not even like about time, it's more like a feeling of like I've hit the wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's when I kind of check out.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Bridget Canning, author of The Greatest Hits of Wanda James and editor of What's Written in the Ladies.
I find first drafts can be exhausting because for me, it's just kind of like, just get it down on the paper. And sometimes I'm like, oh God, it's so bad. It's just getting it down so that you can then rewrite it. Like for me, writing is in the rewriting. Yeah. So I find first drafts quite exhausting, but I find the act of rewriting and improving things to be energizing. I kind of think of it as like, everyone in my family paints. Like my mother, my brother, my sister all paint. So, you know, putting like the base, you know, like the base canvas, like your undercolors and everything is probably not that stimulating, and just kind of getting it done. And then the act of, you know, putting in the details and adding and taking away and things like that is, you know, what actually feels like creating art, I guess. So I kind of tend to think of it that way. I can get exhausting at the end because like when is it finished?
Yeah.
When you're at that stage, it's usually that's when I finally I do it until I can't see it anymore, and then I pass it off to somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting
I would say the rewriting is the energizing part.
It's interesting you say that about the first draft, because I've been reading, I follow a few like author blogs and podcasts and stuff like that. And one of them, a few of them now have been putting this idea of your first draft you shouldn't even call it your first draft. It should be draft 0, where it's like, this is just the thing that nobody will ever see, and it's not even good enough to call a first draft. You just get it out onto the page, and then the first time you rework it and you take stuff out and add stuff in and tweak it and get rid of your typos, that's actually the first draft.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have award-winning children's author Sheila Lukens. Does writing energize you, or does it exhaust you?
A combination of both. Sometimes it's exhausting, sometimes it's energizing.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have Mary Walsh, author of Crying for the Moon.
Well, if I get it right, it energizes me. But sometimes, you know, you can write away at things and it'll feel like, you know, you're just not getting it right. You're not doing what you want to do, you know, and sometimes it feels like trying to get it right is as thin as a knife edge. You know what I mean? You just can't get on there. And then that is exhausting, right? And, so that's it. So depending on how it goes, if it goes well, I find it extraordinarily exhilarating. But if I'm not getting at it, I find it exhausting.
Yeah, absolutely, as you would.
Me
too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Ellen Curtis, who serves on the Wannell board and is the author of the Infinity series from Engine Books, as well as the editor of the From the Rock anthology. Are you energized by writing, or does it exhaust you?
That's specific to what I'm writing. It's very dependent on the content. So some scenes are really hard to write, like if they're really emotional, if they deal with sensitive subject matter. But some things, you know, are exciting to write. Like if you're writing, you know, a fantasy thing about someone finding something for the first time, or if you're writing about people finding each other.
That's fine. I find I always get energized more towards the climax of a story, and there's stories I write in chronological order, and some people don't. Like Amanda Labonte was on a few weeks ago and mentioned that she writes Like if she's energized, she writes energized scenes. If she's, not, then not. She'll write more downbeat scenes, I guess.
Different scenes and different situations I find are very different. I guess I tap into my character's emotions.
Different at different times, like with different projects. Some projects are really energizing for me, and like I'll just keep going till it's all done. And then other projects, it's like pulling teeth.
Can you give an example from your library of your written work that came out fast and was like pulling teeth?
I generally find short stories come out really fast, probably because I can sit down and just stay there until it's done. Anything that has a bit of a longer plot, well, the things I've worked on with the longer plot have been joint projects.
So you would say that like short stories like Falling into Fire and the Tourniquet Revival and stuff like that was more energizing, whereas say the Infinity series was more exhausting of a process.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot more back and forth with that and hair pulling.
Interesting. Are you going back to short fiction anytime soon?
Oh yeah, usually got a bit of short fiction on my plate. So.
Thank you very much. Next up we have Paul Carberry, author of the Zombies on the Rock series from Engine Books.
Depends on the scene I'm writing. Sometimes if I'm writing a scene, it might take more out of me.
Yep.
And then I feel exhausted, or if I don't feel good about what I wrote, I'm probably exhausted. But if I feel really good about what I wrote, like if I'm having a great day writing, I'll go from 1,000 words easily up to 5,000. Because I keep drawing from that momentum. And
so your output depends on the experience you're getting.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next up we have Aaron Vance, Editor-in-Chief of Engine Books and the editor of the From the Rock anthology series. Either as a writer or as an editor in your dual role, but does your work energize you or does it exhaust you?
Yes. It does both. I get really energized while I'm doing it, and then as soon as it's over, I want to take a nap.
Because you've expended that energy.
Yeah. So editing I find more exhausting than writing because I'm not really creating. I'm fixing.
Yeah.
So
that's why I can't do it.
Yeah, I find that more exhausting, but not. It creeps up on me. I'll be going like really strong, and then all of a sudden I hit a wall.
Yeah.
Writing. If I'm in the mood to write, it's really energizing until I hit the wall again.
Yeah.
And then.
So. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have Tanith Frost, best-selling author of the Immortal Solace series. Tanith, does writing energize you or exhaust you?
I wish I could say it energized me. It does feel like a necessary thing for me because I tend to get depressed and anxious if I'm not writing. But on a day-to-day basis, it definitely exhausts me. If I get a solid day of writing in, if I get 4,000 words, or, on a really good day, 5,000, but sometimes just 3,000 words, I will be mentally exhausted and my brain will be complete mush by 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening.
That's actually a huge amount. Before I started going full-time, I was getting 2,000 a day in, and then I went full-time, and so the administrative arm of Engine started to need more of my attention. But I thought, okay, I'm going full-time now, I'll be able to do 4,000 or 5,000. No, I'm lucky if I can get 1,000 with all the other stuff I'm doing, which it feels horrible, it feels depressing, but there's so much else going on.
Yeah, I have trouble even getting started if I feel like I'm going to get interrupted before I get a full scene or a full chapter done. And sometimes that'll be 2,000 words, but for one of my larger chapters, that will be 3 or even closer to 4,000. And depending on how my focus and concentration are on any given day, I might try to squeeze 2 chapters in or 2 scenes in. So it can add up, but that depends a lot on how my mental energy is doing.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Ali House, author of the Segment Delta Archives series, as well as a frequent contributor to the From the Rock collection of anthologies.
Writing energizes me, editing exhausts me.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yep, absolutely. Same here.
Yeah, like when you have an idea and you just really want to get it down on paper and you're just so excited to get from one part to another and you just want to get there as fast as possible, so you write and write and write. It's really energizing to just get the story down first time.
I think everything's more energetic the first time. Like, imagine if you ran a marathon and that was really energizing, but then someone made you go back and watch a video of yourself running the marathon and you had to point out all the mistakes you made.
Yeah, that's always painful.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you didn't do this well enough, then do it again.
That's
Better.
not how a comma works. Yeah.
Oh, does anyone know how a comma works?
No, nobody knows how an Oxford comma works.
Oh, I know how an Oxford comma works, and I flippin' love them.
Yeah, I do too. I don't know how a semicolon works. I still don't, honestly.
You know what? I learned how a semicolon works, and it's amazing, but they just look so weird when you put them on a page.
Yep, I used to do a thing because when I was very, very young, I'm talking 16, because I didn't know what a semicolon did, I just put one every third colon. just like, oh, that one, every third colon was a semicolon, no respect for what it meant, just throwing them in there. That was really fun for Aaron to edit.
Also, how many colons did you use in your writing?
A lot.
I worry I do that with dashes.
Yeah, I use a lot of I'm now a hyphen person.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next up we have Peter Foote, owner of Fiction First Used Books, the founder of the Genre Writers of Atlantic Canada page, and frequent contributor to the From the Rock anthology. Peter, does writing typically energize you, or does it exhaust you?
Well, it's a bit of a mixture, actually. Usually once I finish something, or even maybe not a story, but a good scene, I can feel really energized by it, but I'm also maybe a bit emotionally drained by the fact that I've actually been able to purge it from myself. A lot of what I write is a little based on personal experience. There's deals with loss, a little macabre, not as many roses and rainbows in what I write. So sometimes I can feel good about what I've produced, but it's also been quite draining to get it out of me.
Okay. I find it's good to have that catharsis then. Yeah, when you're writing about stuff like that. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Next on the line we have Gareth Mitten, contributor to About Face and Dystopia from the Rock.
That very much depends. I write pretty much all day, every day in my job as a copywriter. That can be really exhausting sometimes.
I imagine, yeah.
But when you have an idea, and I think that the really exciting part for me, and maybe it's the same for most writers, I don't know, you could tell me perhaps, Matt, what your experience is, but when I have the idea, that's the most exciting part. When I get a concept for something, there's a short story I'm working on now, and I was thrilled with the idea. When you get a good idea, I don't think there's a better feeling.
Yeah, I agree.
The sitting down and writing, I think at first is really exciting, and then you kind of. I've never been really big on plotting things, but I learned the hard way because I had to go and reverse engineer a novel that was terribly structured. So now I'm kind of more inclined to do some plotting at least, but I also like the ability to be surprised by my own story as well.
That's fair.
So and it's kind of like characters, and situations can sort of go away that you didn't expect necessarily, and that's exciting too.
Yeah.
But the most painful thing is editing. It's just that's exhausting to me. When I've written something and it's kind of like that's all out and down on paper, and it's like, oh right, now the work begins to make this.
Not a fan of the editing process. Yeah.
Yeah, to make it something cohesive and that makes sense and that somebody else might actually want to read. That's hard work, and that takes discipline.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Good answer. Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have John Hass, author of The Reluctant Barbarian. John, does writing energize you? Like, do you get pumped up after you've written, or does it exhaust you, or does it drain you emotionally?
Definitely energizes me. When I've getting up and getting started is not necessarily easy, but then once I've got it going, I find it hard to stop. I'm really into it, and then once I'm done and I have to go or whatever, I'm very up emotionally, and everything is just better.
Great. Thank you very much. Next on the line, we're pleased to have artist and photographer Kit Sora, the visionary artist behind Kit Sora, the Autobiography. Does your work energize you or exhaust you, Kit?
It depends on the day. Sometimes I'm super pumped, especially if I've got this, concept that's been sitting in my head for a little while. I'm super excited to get it going, and then once I'm shooting, it's like, you get that one good shot and you're like reviewing just really quickly, and it just looks so good that you're super excited. Other days, depend upon my mood or the weather or just life in general, I could be very not into it. Those days are harder to get through because, I'm doing this project to force myself to shoot. So come hell or high water, there's going to be a photo at the end of it, but it can be super tiring to try to come up with an idea and then to please, the people who are looking forward to it and, myself as well. So
yeah,
both.
I feel like you hold your health to a very high standard.
Yeah, for better or for worse, yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have Candace Osmond, best-selling author of Dark Tides and Killer Me. Candace, does writing energize you or does it exhaust you?
It depends what I'm writing. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm an author, but I'm also a freelance writer. So I work with a lot of clients to help create content for their websites, and then I also manage their websites. So if I'm writing 15,000 words on lawnmowers, not necessarily getting charged from that.
I don't know. We could do like an anthology book of your eventually when it all comes out and your like the NDAs have expired if they ever do. We could do like a book of short fiction about your lawnmower talks.
We'll put a pin in that.
You're gonna say no. Yeah. The Secret Life of Lawnmowers with Candace Osmond.
No. But yeah, no, when I'm writing fiction, whether it's for myself or a co-written project or ghost written projects I ghostwrite too, it always energizes me because it's doing what I love.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have Tie-On Collective author Susan McDonald.
Oh, energize me. Oh my gosh. What exhausts me is getting myself to write. I'm telling you, Matthew, I could procrastinate for the Olympics, and so I can find every reason in the book not to sit down at the computer, but once I'm going, I'm gone, and then I usually have to stop because, it's not healthy to sit for too long and I get all stiff and sore and can't move. But then my head is really going. And so, you finish writing. I used to do a lot of my writing in the evening, and then I would go up to bed and my head would be going 90 miles an hour, and my body's like, please stop.
Yep.
Because then you can't sleep.
Yep.
And some of the best thoughts come at night, and then you're, oh my gosh, I should be writing this down, I should be doing something, I should be dictating it, and then it's gone the next morning.
Yeah, we have brains that misbehave. Writers do. That's what gets us to write, but the sad thing is they don't listen, so they don't do things like be quiet and let me sleep.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have Carolyn R. Parsons, author of The Forbidden Dreams of Betsy Elliott.
Both, I think. I mean, sometimes it energizes me in the fact that I could get started and I can't stop. Like, I've got to keep going and going and going and going and going until I get to a certain point. Like, I have written 15,000 words in a day.
Yep.
Like, just complete, go. And then I've written 1,000 words that exhausted me because of whatever I'm writing, or usually if I'm trying to get past a point in a book or turn a corner and then I find that, it's so it does both, but I do find most days there's a limit to what I can produce when it comes to fiction, and when it comes to nonfiction, I mix it up. I find they use two different parts of the brain, and if I can make a nice balance between, because I write nonfiction, I do other stuff for to make money, and I was doing stuff for the newspapers, and I always do a little bit of freelance, and so if I do that, I don't find that uses the same part of the brain so much as the fiction does. Fiction is completely making stuff up in a lot of ways, right? And I don't have to interview anybody or get any opinions till later on. So it's a different writing thing. But I still find that if I do too much of one, I don't have the energy for the other. I prefer the fiction, but I find that mixing it up helps me. But it exhausts you mentally. I mean, There are times. I think mostly, though, I probably, after a good day writing, I probably feel better. I probably feel good. It's probably more energizing than anything if I had to pick one. But
Okay.
anyway.
All right, well, thanks for coming on again. For all of you, we'll be here again next week at 4:30 Newfoundland time or online at chmr.ca. Please tune in and we'll talk more about writing culture in Newfoundland.